My name is Audrey.
My name is Della.
My name is Gavin. When I grow up, I want to be a flight attendant.
When I grow up, I want to be a football player.
When I grow up, I would like to be a designer.
My name is Enzo.
My name is Caitlin.
When I grow up, I would like to be an MLB baseball player.
What I want to be when I grow up is a marine biologist.
When I grow up, I want to be an architect.
When I grow up, I want to be a wedding planner.
When I grow up, I want to be a Marine. God gave his life, Jesus gave his life for me. I want to give my life for people I can save as well.
I'm not afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. And it feels so strong. It feels so strong saying that. Like, I feel so strong saying that. I never would have thought.
On April 8th of 2022, 15-year-old Natalie and her father, Kyle Morris, attended a game together, sitting in section 221 as the Mavericks played the Trailblazers at American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. Willing and ready to hang out with her father for the big game, they took their seats together until Natalie felt a familiar urge to numb her anxiety. Natalie had been using things like alcohol and MJ and vaping to cope at that time in her life with her anxiety. So Natalie decided that she was going to head out of the noisy and anxious environment around her by masking her decision to leave the seating temporarily. She left her phone at the seat next to her father, and she lied to him, saying, "I'm heading to the restroom." But really, she had intentions to just unwind and take a breath and walk around. As she walked around, she met eyes with someone who appeared that they might have a similar habit or two in common with Natalie. "Do you smoke?" she asked him. He said, "Yeah, her lucky day." So she thought. He told her that he had what she needed, but it was in his car. The man walked her to his car, parked in the garage of the arena. At that point, a second man had walked up, and eventually, Natalie was put inside the car. She was high, and she was raped several times in the parking garage. The two men then took Natalie away from the stadium, which was 20 to 25 minutes, over to a house where the rape unfortunately continued. She was also given more MJ to keep her under the influence. After a couple of days, she ended up getting moved away to Oklahoma City, where she was handed off to a new group of people at the Extended Stay America Hotel. Of course, going back to game day, her father Kyle was upset that his daughter had not returned from the restrooms. He was anxious and worried. His wife was out of town, and there were 20,000 people at the stadium that day. He reported his daughter missing, but was allegedly told by authorities that he needed to report Natalie as a runaway. This wouldn't have been the first time if it had been a runaway. Natalie had run away before, but there was a gut feeling. Something was wrong. Natalie's parents ended up hiring a private investigator to help assist them in their search for Natalie. The private investigator was able to find online sex ads featuring photos of Natalie and trace them to where she was currently at that time in Oklahoma City. By then, they had evidence. They were able to share what they had found online with the Oklahoma City Police Department, and officers began their search there. Going back to Natalie, during her time with her predators, she first feared the idea of asking for help, which is why she said she didn't. Even though her 15-year-old mind knew that the fun was over and she was now in a bad position, getting raped, trapped in a home with several men she didn't know, she was aware this is not normal. Something bad is happening. Now, this is one very fortunate case of a survivor who was discovered after only 10 days. The only real lead they had to go off of at the time when she vanished was that grainy surveillance footage of Natalie walking with a strange man before stumbling upon the website that was featuring Natalie being trafficked. The man who lured Natalie away was actually 33 years old. A grand jury decided there was not enough evidence to convict him for what he had done, so the man walked. But 8 more were arrested for criminal activity when Natalie was discovered. It was a bit hard for me to just take one case this time and focus on this topic alone because child trafficking is really so taboo. It's really not out there as much as it should be, and yet the number of children who really are being trafficked, even now as I speak, is unfathomable. Even for me, this is a very hard topic to cover and for my brain to comprehend.
It could be happening right next door to you to somebody that seems to be a normal human being.
The subject became so taboo that no one wants to talk about it because it sounds preposterous.
But we have got to stop them. We have to stop the predator from feasting on our children.
Just fuck. Just what we care about is so bizarre. Yeah. It's such a symptom of how sick we are as a culture, and that our priorities are so skewed, and that this is sort of accentuated by our addiction to social media.
Yeah.
And that people are concentrating so much on things that are trivial and nonsensical.
You know, what's scary, and where Americans need to wake up. It's enormous, right? There's millions of people. There's more people enslaved today than ever before in the history of the world, which is shocking to people because they think their textbooks tell them that it ended with Abraham Lincoln and the end of the transatlantic slave trade. It's like, no, it's reared its ugly head again, and there's more people now than ever. Slave labor, sex, and organ harvesting, which is becoming a bigger thing, believe it or not. The hidden war is, who in the hell are these guys? I mean, they're going online and saying, kill OUR if you ever want to have sex with kids. Oh. Like, this used to be very closet. It's not.
In my experience with trying to research the topic of child trafficking so I can further understand it and educate myself for my family's sake and be able to bring it to my channel to talk about, everywhere that I go and I find that there is a victim, everywhere that I've been, and I've been able to find a victim who is courageous enough to come out and talk about what happened, there are a cluster of people fighting it. They are calling it fake news. They say that the victim is crazy, and that the victim is just lying for clout. People really believe that this is not possible, that this is not a thing, that this is not something that is actually happening in our world today. Although Natalie's story is relevant to the fact that she met a perfect stranger, that's not always the case with child trafficking. One of the biggest myths of child trafficking is that victims are targeted by somebody that they don't know. Allie Carter, who was trafficked by her own boyfriend, is one of the women that said, you know, it takes a celebrity to go down for people to be mortified enough to actually pay attention to it. And so long as there is celebrity spotlight on this topic, it'll make the news. But when new media streams, it'll bury right back under more entertaining news feeds, and we'll all just go back to the life as we know it, and the children will not get reached. The problem will progress, and the agenda to distract us from thinking about it for a while will prevail until the next time. And then it happens again. And then it turns out that this actually is a cycle of something that has been going on all along, and it's just not being talked about. But what if I reminded you that your child qualifies for trafficking in the eyes of a predator? We don't have to actually attend a Diddy party or get caught in a room with a politician for this to happen. We didn't need to cross paths with Jeffrey Epstein and fly to his island. The majority of victims will be and are brought into trafficking beginning with someone they know. I think that this content serves everyone because the frightening truth, even for me, within child trafficking is that there are no specific targeted audiences within child trafficking. So long as they are a child, our children, so to speak, this qualifies. Minors with increased risk factors include children with disabilities, foster children, LGBTQ, children struggling with substance abuse, youth organizations, runaways, and more. The movie The Sound of Freedom that came out, my husband and I went to the theater and we watched it, and it was based on an experience by Tim Ballard. I remember thinking that trafficking appeared in the film to look like a form of kidnapping. It seemed to give me this vision that this might only happen to a child that's in a candy store. Maybe mom is a little distracted. She's in the corner, a public place, everything seems safe, and then comes along this weirdo luring your kid out of the store with a sucker and then pushes them in a van and drives off. Or perhaps maybe like the movie had insinuated, where you try to get your kids to break into Hollywood, or you're dropping them off with some kind of modeling agency or acting opportunity, and then suddenly you go to pick them up and boom, they're gone. But the truth is, oftentimes children are prepped and groomed first for the mission of trafficking. It does not have to appear like a kidnapping. A predator might enter a field of work or a line of work just to access children and trafficking connections, which when you wrap your mind around that as a parent, super terrifying to consider, because then you have to go into a very deep, dark place on what exactly the definition of that really is. Predators may be the actual people to provide jobs and education to your child. Predators can move quick, but the first thing that they do is find a way to alienate a child from their legal caregiver, which, to be frank, is exactly what the state of California is doing right now. This is where I live with my family and my children. It has greatly saddened myself and my husband that there have been laws in our beautiful Golden State that prohibit the ability to remain close within trust to our children, especially within the school districts. No thanks to our governor, Gavin Newsom. The laws are actually designed to protect the LGBTQ community. That's what they're saying the laws have been designed for. Let me be clear. This has nothing to do with the acceptance of the LGBTQ community. It's not that as a parent, I can't accept that there are laws in place to protect individuals in who they think they are or how they identify. For me, this has terrified me. Guys, terrified me as a mother of an autistic child who is easily influenced and will do almost anything asked of him to fit in. The law basically insinuates that our children can go to school and they can identify as something other than who they are, who they think that they are, and they are protected to keep that secret, to have a trusted place to go or another adult outside of the home to trust other than their parents. Just like the same concept as with trafficking, when I go and I read the different comments on news articles or media broadcasts on how people feel about this, just as well, there is a very big fight amongst people on what they believe to be true. And the people that fight for these laws to be in place say that people like myself and my husband deserve this treatment, this parental interference, this division from our child, to be able to go someplace else and say, this is who I want to be, or this is who I think that I am, and trust anyone other than us as the parents to keep that secret from us. I personally believe that laws like this are a tactic relevant to the exact description of how abusers and predators begin their work on our children. Because I am not worried about teaching my children to love and accept themselves and others within the LGBTQ community, as much as I am very concerned that there is now a law in place that gives my child the option to go around me, to fear me, and to trust another adult to keep secrets away from me outside of my home. I understand laws in place and I respect that this is supposed to be about acceptance and love, but I do not believe that it should come at the cost of trading trust with my child. It really frightens me because, going back to trafficking, again, it goes back right into how it's usually someone who knows your child and can alienate your child away from you in order to get through to them and get what they need from your child. Traffickers don't jump out of the bushes and break into your home or hide under your kid's bed and snatch them up. Traffickers can take advantage of a child's desperation to feel close to someone or of their relationship challenges with their legal caregivers. In fact, it's good to know that trafficking recruitment commonly takes places at schools, places of work, online gaming, social media websites, religious meetings, markets, parks, bus stops, actually more like public domain places. Now, one of the things that Allie Carter ended up saying was that CPS out in Riverside, here in my state of California, she declares that there are a lot of people involved in the trafficking rings, pretty much everyone. If this was a safe place for Allie Carter to be, she would reside here. She's on the run for her life as we speak.
I went into foster care at 13, 14. We tried to do a case against Riverside County Child Protective Services because Riverside County, do you hear me? Riverside County Child Protective Services was involved in my trafficking.
She's saying that the state of California failed her, including CPS. And to be honest with you, I can believe that. Former foster child, right here, me, spent several years as a child in foster care, saw a lot. A lot of it has to do with power and money within the system of foster care. It can be crooked. In fact, a website by the name of ATI actually presents this very well. They say, foster care is not always safer than the home from which the kids are removed. Children are often trafficked by their foster youth, their own foster parents, or even social service caseworkers. Children placed in large group homes often face inadequate adult supervision and risk being lured by teen trafficking recruiters within the home or by traffickers outside the home, promising money and a sense of belonging. Sadly, it is also known that child predators desire to live and work around children. Just as I stated, this has created the ugly reality of Child Protective Services involvement with human trafficking. I think these are the places that we need to be looking. Adoption homes, foster systems. I completely agree with Allie Carter on that. And I know that it's in our best interest to believe that foster care essentially puts a halt on potential leads of trafficking. But in my opinion, the places that should be safest are the places that we should question the most. This is not accusatory. Again, I was a foster kid and, I was not trafficked. But is it really unreasonable to start treating our surroundings like there are potential dangers of trafficking predators amongst us? Take it from me how uneasy this makes me feel to discuss my own children being a predatory target. It makes me angry. I personally don't even want to be here. I don't even want to go there. But if I choose to pretend that this isn't possible, that this could happen to my family, if I use the term, I didn't think it would happen to me, or that won't happen to me, doesn't that make me and my family an even bigger target? Because people like Allie Carter are right. This is very taboo. This is such a small matter in the big spectrum of things, if you rely on the news to tell you the truth about it. The fact that it's actually a really big matter and becomes a smaller world within criminals and predators, we should wonder, why is this discussed so rarely? We should question our schools when laws get passed that kids don't have to tell us everything anymore. We should begin to start viewing elites and celebrities that go down for this not as shocking content. We ought to go back to when crime was crime and start believing people the first time they say something, especially trafficked victims who made it out to talk to us about it now that they are adults. It makes me wonder how many people haven't gotten the chance to talk about it at all. The other topic that I'd like to discuss is the fact that, just like Allie Carter has stated, this can go beyond just trafficking. We need to understand that a lot of these victims aren't just being drugged and raped. If not death, it can be taken to a level of a satanic ritual. Here is a clip of Allie speaking about what was expected of her at one of her assigned trafficking experiences.
Thought that I was high enough to not know your first name, Mateo. Simi Valley, California. Mateo has a snake tattooed on his right arm, all the way up his arm, and the snake head goes onto the inside of his arm. I remember the time that in Simi Valley, California, there's these line of track houses and they're stage homes. They're stage homes and they're set up for porn videos.
The whole street.
The whole street.
That they filmed child porn.
Okay, so I tried to run. I did. My dumb ass ran right out of one house after my pimp told me what was going on and that I had to suck on a pacifier and that I was going to be a baby and that he dressed me up in a blue and white onesie. It was a sea blue and white and green onesie with sea blue and green lingerie. I remember that. To the point that it was really hard for a little bit to cope, and it was a few days ago it was really hard to get off the floor. But no, I remember. I remember going into the house and being told that I was going to be hunted down in the house. The drugs were in the pacifier. I was supposed to finish the pacifier, but I didn't, because when I finally realized the job that I was on, I was officially freaked out. And there were these sex dolls in these cribs. They're big sex dolls, children size, heavy life-size sex dolls. Look them up. They exist. They are heavy. They cry. They make noise. All of it like a child. And it was a house full of these cribs, and I was supposed to go into one and just get in one, and he was supposed to come looking for me and then do whatever he wanted to do.
Back to Allie Carter. She actually did admit, she said this wasn't just trafficking, that when she was attending these elite parties, Diddy's in specific, she said that this was a satanic ritual.
We're still not on the subject of the kids. You knew these parties were not okay. They weren't freak-offs. They were satanic ritual orgies. Get it straight.
When she speaks the kind of language that we're not familiar with, and it seems a world away, like, I do not understand this girl. Is she okay? Is that real? I mean, could this really be happening? I don't know. You know, when it instills doubt, stories like what we're about to hear really confirm that they have a certain language they speak, and it's called the truth. And we're not familiar with that. And that's why it disturbs us so much, because a lot of people are either involved in it or they can't hang with it. And that's why we're talking about it today. Allie Carter has told us this is something she's familiar with. Let's take a look at this content.
There are too many victims. Victims that you don't even know their name. Victims that you'll never hear their laugh. Victims that you'll never know who the hell they were because everybody was so busy bouncing to their music. Didn't I tell you? Music is a diary. Are you now figuring that out? If you're listening, it's one thing when you hear it and you feel it. When you feel it, you can actually hear it. When you hear it, you can actually feel it. Do you understand that their music is their diary? All these rappers, they're telling you what they did.
What was it like meeting Diddy for the first time?
Meeting him for the first time, it was the dream come true. I just remember him walking in and asking everybody, hey, what kind of girls do y'all want? And I think somebody said they wanted Puerto Rican girls. And a few moments later, girls came in. That was just one of the many instances where, like, the power that, you know, this guy could get whatever he wanted. We would all be in the studio and they would be chanting different things over the music alone. This whole thing is spiritual. The spirit realm very much controls what it sounds like, what it looks like, what happens. And the Motown talent search was kind of like American Idol before the technology, before, you know, TV. So if you got that opportunity, you had to take advantage of it because the competition was very stiff. And we got invited out and we did our thing. And we got invited back to a second round. So we were really, we were like, wow, this is crazy. Andre Harrell, Motown, like, man, this is crazy. So I'm steadily sending more records. And now Diddy wants to meet. Now they're like, they want you to come to New York. So I get on the plane and I go to New York. And I go to Daddy's House Studio, 44th and Broadway in Manhattan. And we're all out there, and Diddy pulls up in a drop-top Ferrari 360 Spider.
That was your first encounter with them. What was like your next significant encounter with them?
The next significant encounter was in Miami.
Okay.
It was in Miami at a party. I just remember him walking in and asking everybody, hey, what kind of girls do y'all want? And, like, you know, a few moments later, girls came in. And I think somebody said they wanted Puerto Rican girls. And just a bunch of them came in.
Where did they come from?
I don't know. I didn't have the connections with. So, you know, we're in Miami, and that was just, you know, that was just one of the many instances where, like, the power that, you know, this guy could get whatever he wanted. There was already girls there at the party, but I believe these girls came specifically to do whatever we wanted them to do. So I'm dealing with the voice of the Lord every moment telling me to get out of there. And fighting this, I actually feel like I'm going crazy. And I'm trying to share with other people to see if they're going through the same thing, because I know some of the producers and the writers that I'm around, they came from church too. And I'm wondering, like, man, how are y'all, like, not feeling this? Like, because the fire of God is all over me. And I'm like, man, I'm going to lose my mind trying to fight this. So, you know, there was a couple guys I would try to talk to, and I would say, hey, how do you feel about doing secular and, you know, and working for the Lord? Like, how are you feeling about it? And some guys would say, hey, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's just the gift. And so a lot of times I would go back to God, like, God, you gave me the gift. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I struggling emotionally and psychologically?
What did you experience, let's say more so from a spiritual Christian's perspective, being inside? What did you experience?
One thing I experienced is that this whole thing is spiritual. Most people would just attribute it to being gifted or being talented, but the spirit realm very much controls what it sounds like, what it looks like, what happens. I remember even the first record that I did for Bad Boy Records, I remember being in the studio for 4 days straight, no sleep, because I was driven by something more than just my own ability. It was something driving me. Like a
demonic spirit?
I believe it was a demonic spirit in the sense that if I wasn't in those realms, I couldn't hear the music like that. I couldn't hear it as clear. Like,
you described moments where you saw people actually doing seances over their music.
Absolutely.
So what did that look like?
So we would all be in the studio, and it would almost be ritualistic. We would light candles, and as the beats are playing, they would, their hands would be moving like this, and they would be chanting different things over the music alone. This is before it goes to the writers. And I again, you don't get to those realms without a supernatural.
Your next significant kind of Diddy moment, what was that like?
We spent the time together in New York at Daddy's house, and then when we went to Miami, there was a couple parties. Being new and coming up through the ranks, and he would come in and say, man, you guys sound amazing, keep going, he would give us encouragement. And of course we got on some records and we made the money.
And what was like a final straw for you?
So after leaving Miami, there was another party that was happening in Vegas. So everybody flew to Vegas. It may have been an industry event, like an award show or something. So we're all in Vegas. Everybody's there. Diddy, I believe Dr. Dre is there. Truth Hurts is there. A bunch of people are there. And so my way was paid, by my handlers from Diddy's camp. And hotel, plane, food, everything I need is all taken care of. And at this point, I'm pretty much about to go crazy trying to fight what the Lord wants me to do. And when I got there, I said, I can't do it anymore. Party's gonna happen that night. I said, I can't do it. So without telling anybody, I just walk away, and I don't even know how I'm gonna get home. So I'm on the Vegas Strip, and I'm crying my eyes out like a crazy man. And people are walking by looking at me like I'm a homeless guy, and I'm no words, just in the bus stop, sitting there just crying like a crazy man. And I called my dad, and my dad bought me a plane ticket. I jump on the plane, I go back to Houston. And the phone calls start. Hey, where you at? And I told him, hey, I can't do it. I'm not coming. They're like, well, what do you mean you can't do it? We're getting ready to go into the party. Like, where you at? And I'm like, well, I've left town. I can't do it. And I said, I'm walking away from it all. And they were like, no, you're not walking away. You need to get here now. And I hung up, and I stopped answering calls. But then the threats started. I started getting threats. We're going to find you. None of these guys knew my mom or where she lived. My mom started calling me, hey, these guys are calling. My wife, she was my girlfriend at the time. They were even calling her house. Yes, they were calling my dad. They even came to my church, it was very scary because I almost felt forced into. I almost felt like, well, I'm gonna have to go back into this and I'm gonna have to fulfill it, because I didn't want anybody to get hurt.
Well, it's almost like, I watched this video about the former wife of P. Diddy. I wrote the book about her. I can't remember her name.
Kim Porter.
And she was speaking about how there was only one way out.
Yes.
Death.
Yes.
You're leaving in a body bag.
I brought her up a couple times in this content here, and I wanted to cover Allison Leilani Carter's story. I really did. I wanted to give it the attention it deserves, but I can't. I can't do that because I've heard her testimony on how she feels about her content being put around as the latest news of the day, the latest entertainment. This woman is boots on the ground, running for her life at the moment. And unless I have her personal blessing to do that, I can't. I've shown clips. I've introduced who she is. I will leave a link down below where you can watch some of her content and get familiar with her story. But that is why I've actually approached this content piece here the way that I have. And I made it as personal as possible toward me, a reflection of you. I'm using everything that I've talked about today as resources to bring more alarming awareness and truth. And I really hope that you were able to get something out of it today. I hope that you walk away from the video and something about what I've said changes your life, changes your relationship with your child. I was just talking to Kyle, my husband, about this, and effective immediately in the last, I'd say, several weeks that I've been studying more about trafficking, we have changed some habits. It's not that we weren't being good parents before. We needed to tighten the reins. We needed to love and protect our family just a little bit harder. The topic is taboo, not because it's so rare, but because there is an agenda. All that to say, you are very loved. I felt like it was worth it to get on here today and just express this from my heart and tell you I'm in this with you. I'm a parent. I aim to protect and serve my family. And I hope that in hearing some of these testimonies that maybe you'll take a look at yourself and your child and just be able to kind of identify the level of trust in your relationship with your children or your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your little siblings. It's worth it. If we have to second guess ourselves, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to decide that, you know what, I'm going to use more caution. I'm going to love a little more. I'm going to take this topic extremely seriously, and I'm not going to forget what's going on. And if you do want to do something to help, there are several places that you can donate to people who have the resources and the time to help. All you can do is all you can do, and it really starts at home. It starts with yourself and being able to protect your own family and not giving predators the time of day to look twice and not realize that if they ever tried to come for your child, they would have no eyeballs left. So those links will be placed down below. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will be seeing you in November of 2024. This year has passed us up so fast. Love on your spouses, hug your children, look after your children, and I hope you have a blessed week. Stay safe. I'm Chelsea J.